And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Also streaming on the KSL Sports app. We're on YouTube. Ben's everywhere these days. He's publishing and writing and those things. Hey, should we have done something different?
Well, you and I did break a rule that we laid out yesterday. That you and I both said neither of us are into April Fool's Day.
We did.
We both said neither of us are into it. And we don't like doing the pranks because
it wasn't our prank,
It wasn't our prank.
It's
currently,
not our...
somebody is falling for a prank.
Well, Hans and Scotty talked about it yesterday, so I think it's fine.
Okay.
And Nate, our boss, sent out an email yesterday because we are now on the YouTube.
You can find us. If you go to kslsports.com, you'll see our streaming video, so you can watch the show.
You can
live.
watch it, which is really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nate sent out an email on April Fool's that we're going to have makeup training.
Yeah.
Because we're coming off shiny.
There's a glare.
And Nate even threw Tanya's name in there to give it some extra heft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going to have a consultant.
Had times and everything.
The whole thing. Now, Christian had already blown it with us because he told us that he didn't even mean to. He thought that they were just going to do it to a specific show.
Right. And to be fair, I had heard that the plan was specifically to target Hans.
Yeah. Right.
Because he's bald. And it would be funny to make him go buy makeup.
And it would have been. Except for I'm not into it. You're right. I should have approached this.
But they were going to be on remote yesterday, so it didn't matter. We weren't going to be able to.
But they were here.
Hans and Scotty, they ended up being here, didn't they?
Yeah, they were here.
I think what fell through is they were going to have JJ come and show Hans and Scotty how to do it, but JJ is the one. JJ's on vacation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, he sent out an email to the whole staff.
That you had to do makeup training today.
Yeah, right, today.
So as we're leaving the show, or we're moving to come in here, and DJ and PK are leaving.
PK's they ask us, they're like, hey, what's up with this makeup
How
training?
was the makeup thing this morning?
Our appointment was for 9:30 this morning.
And theirs was after.
And I was kind of taken aback, honestly. I was kind of and you were the one who took the lead. You're like, oh, they're just going to show you, walk you through the basics and all of this. And,
it's just what products you need to look for.
And David's even they say we're shiny. I put on this. What did he say? I put on something for TV and
foundation or whatever.
Because I know shiny.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the camera right now, and I'll tell you, we're not shiny. So Ben and I just let it go.
Yeah, mostly we got out of their way.
So they walked out the door, and they're headed downstairs to meet.
Look up a makeup person who's not there.
Absolutely no one. But then the door closed, and you said, should we have told them?
Yeah.
And should we have told them?
You know what? This is actually one of the better executed April Fool's jokes. The fact that it made it 24 hours. That clearly those two had not panic, but certainly had probably had a little consternation about having to do this as part of their daily routine.
And listen, both guys really, but especially PK is a very serious employee.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he takes it seriously.
He takes it really seriously. Directives, things like that. Like PK, you may think he's this rebel rouser because of PK on the radio, but no, he's a very diligent employee. He is absolutely the person to be like, I don't want to do this. I absolutely am uncomfortable with this, but you know what? If the job requires it,
that's the employer.
Then I'm stepping right up and I'm going to hit a home run.
The funny thing is, too, on the bottom of the email, Nate wrote in very, very small font, Happy April 1st.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know if they missed that or just didn't realize that April 1st is April Fool's Day.
You know what? Honestly, I didn't know he did that either. So, maybe they're like me where they read about 1/3 of the email.
Nate preyed on, people either not checking their emails or not finishing their emails. He knew that was a thing. Hatch, did you tell them on the way out? No, they went looked. That's great. Oh, good. Well, Nate knows what to expect. Is Nate here? Is Nate downstairs?
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's really funny. I feel, you know what? I don't feel bad because it was Nate's prank.
It was Nate's
not
prank,
our prank. It was Nate's prank. Like I ruined a really good prank on my brother when he was, my brother played a really good prank on our other roommate. I should tell you about it. It's funny.
Okay.
But I ruined it, and I always felt bad. My brother took a sock that he had been wearing for quite some time, and he put it underneath the pillowcase of our roommate.
Okay.
So our roommate just thought his room stunk. He's like, I can't get any sleep. He's like deep cleaned his whole room except for his pillowcase.
Except for didn't change his pillowcase, which again, another male weakness. Not changing the sheets enough.
And one day, like 5 days into it, I was like, oh, yeah, did you find the sock? or whatever, and totally ruined it. And absolutely do feel bad, even though it wasn't very nice.
Well done, Nate. Maddie was in on this conversation as well. So.
See, I'm even more glad I didn't ruin it. It was like a master plan.
It was a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Well done. That was effective.
A home run?
Yeah. Wait, no harm. You know what I mean? No one's hurt. No one's embarrassed. There wasn't any fake firings.
Well, they'll be embarrassed.
Yeah, we're embarrassing them right now on purpose. But
well, we know they're not listening.
Yeah, that's true. They're looking for the makeup lady. We're gonna kick Tanya's door down.
Oh, what a way to start things out.
Yeah, it was good.
Hey, what's up with this makeup thing? I
had totally forgotten about it.
Meanwhile, you two look the exact same. Like you're not wearing any makeup.
That's what I said. That's why I said, yeah, it's just like a consultation.
Oh, they just walk you through it. Oh,
that's funny.
I love
Ben,
this.
you're heavy on the eyeliner today.
I know, a lot of mascara today.
I love this job. It really is. It really is something on a daily basis. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm doing better today. I mean, I was having a fine morning, but
that's really funny.
That brought it up a step.
Yeah. We've got Wednesday, which is What You Got Wednesday, which we all enjoy. Apparently that was Volbeat we had coming in because it's a win ticket Wednesday, so you'll get a chance to win some Volbeat tickets. They sounded all right. Big groove out there at the amphitheater. Make it happen. The Jazz are back at it tonight, Ben. Is that news to anyone?
6 more. And I'm not counting down, honestly. I'm not, whatever. This job goes on after the season ends for both of us. Nights change a little bit. But, 6 more games to watch and track, and we'll have to figure out at the end of this whether this was a successful season or not. And I guess that can lead us to the question is it solely dependent on what happens at the lottery?
No, absolutely not. I
think that is how a lot of people are going to frame it.
Oh, because they always do. Because complex thought is really challenging for some folks out there. No, and that doesn't mean like it's a success either. It could absolutely be a failure. But you've got to decide who's a guy, and then you've got to maximize their value. If that's trading them or keeping them or continuing to develop, that's a thing. And they needed to figure that out this year, or at least a lot of that out this year. Like we talked about it, this is a hard conversation, and I don't mean to pick on Cody, but he's the relevant example at the moment. If you don't think that him getting stronger and filling out and all of that thing, the things that come with getting older will fix some of the reasons why statistically he has been, so unimpactful this year, well, then you got to trade now while there's some value still there.
Yeah. Well, the mystery protects his value.
Yes.
Until we've all seen what he's not.
We kind of made a joke about it, but the Jazz have more info on these guys than anybody else. So what do you do with that intel? How do you maximize that? And, people will go, well, they lost all these games and they still got the 5th pick. Yeah, but do they have a dude in Walker Kessler? I think so. Do they have a dude in Isaiah Collier? Enough to invest more resources in developing him? Debatable. I would say, I would lean to yes. I don't know about others. Filipowski, we can go down the line. The biggest, honestly, downside of the season is the fact that Taylor Hendricks got hurt.
Yeah.
And because we needed a lot more info on him. I say we, like anybody listens to me. But the organization needed more info about that dude. They needed to help. He needed minutes. You know what Cody Williams is getting right now should be Taylor Hendricks getting. And he's a dude who, like, I'm not saying Cody can't, but he could have really benefited from all of that, and that stinks. But all that info is extraordinarily valuable.
You know, you did get, in light of that, you also figured out a lot about Kyle Filipowski. Kyle probably wouldn't have played hardly at all early in the year, at least the first half of the year, if Taylor was healthy. You know?
Yeah.
All of those minutes would have gone to Taylor, I think. So there are some upsides there. And the Cody thing is interesting because I think if you're judging this entire season on where they land in the lottery, which I don't blame fans who don't carry the same attention to detail that you and I do. We watch every game every second, and then we write about it or talk about it. Like, an unhealthy amount of attention we pay to it.
Ben, that has nothing to do with watching games, having the take of...
Sure.
Well, this is all about that, and it's a complete failure if they don't get the number one pick or whatever. That's such a bad take from anybody.
So looking back at last year, was last year unsuccessful because Cody Williams has not had a great rookie season? And I would listen. If you want to say the Jazz tanked the entire second half of the season to draft 10th and get Cody Williams when they were at 500 and had a chance to make a run for the play-in tournament and opted instead to get Cody Williams, if Cody Williams doesn't do anything or turn into anything, was that a good decision midway through the season to give up on the year?
Yeah, because and maybe I'm naive to believe this, but it was going around last year that if Danny thought that the team could win a round in the playoffs, he would allow them to compete for that chance. And he was probably right that they could not do that. However, that was in question. They could have easily made the play-in last year. Mm-hmm. I believe that.
Yeah, they were at 500. They
could have easily done that. So they decided they weren't good enough to win a round. That's probably true. And so they went the direction that they went. And they had a chance to get the number one pick, and they didn't. They moved back in one of the wackiest lotteries ever. We won't, if the Jazz are lucky, we won't see that again this year. Right?
Yeah.
We haven't really seen that. I mean, it gets back to our conversation yesterday. There's so much randomness to it. To boil it down to, was that a failure because they drafted Cody Williams? There's so many things that happen consecutively to lead up to that point. Right down to scouting and evaluation.
Oh, I mean, including that, you traded Kelly Olynyk to get Isaiah Collier. One of the ways you gave up the second half of the season, you traded Simone Fontecchio to turn into Kyle Filipowski. So if those guys are positives going forward,
that's a win.
As we've said a lot of times, it really actually doesn't matter that much if Cody doesn't make it. It really doesn't matter.
You have to hit. You have to hit somewhere.
And you're not going to hit all of them. Nobody ever does.
And your chances to hit some are better than others. In recent memory, who's the highest draft pick the Jazz have taken themselves?
Dante.
No. Enes Kanter.
Was Enes after Dante?
What do you mean? Dante went fifth. Enes went
third.
Yeah. I'm saying the highest pick.
Okay.
In recent memory from the Jazz. I'm not going back to the 70s. I'm saying the highest pick.
Sure.
When have the Jazz been picking the highest and they are selecting the person?
Yeah.
Has been Enes Kanter at number 3.
Yeah.
They booted that mother goose right, to steal our friend Kyle Gunther's line, right into the parking lot.
Yep.
And then followed that up with Dante Exum, which,
did.
again, right into the parking lot. I mean, just bad picks by anybody's evaluation for that high.
Guys who didn't turn into the guy.
You didn't make it happen. So it's boiling it down to those simplifications, like, is this a failure if you didn't get one? What was the failure was not maximizing your Enes Kanter pick. And that came from Brooklyn. That came from Brooklyn. I mean, that was part of the Darren Williams comp. Mm-hmm. That was where Danny Ainge drafted Jason Tatum, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. He got that pick from Brooklyn, and it was the number 3 pick.
Yeah.
The Jazz got Enes.
Yeah. The difference between those two, enormous.
Yikes. But the pick is the problem. Like, if Cody Williams doesn't make it, I won't think wow, they really should have lost more games so they could have made a bad decision with a higher pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
You put it on scouting or whatever. I to this day believe that Draft Express or whoever your favorite mock draft is twisted Dennis Lindsey's arm into drafting Dante Exum.
You have to take this guy. You've never talked to him. You've talked to him, but you never worked him out. No one expected him to be on the board at 5.
Barely seen him. No one's seen him in a year.
Yeah.
But Draft Express had him at like 2 all these times, like maybe even going 1.
Yeah.
And that's a bad decision for a bad reason, in my opinion. So, like, I don't know. It's just so much more to, honestly, and I don't want to jinx anything. The Jazz get the number 1 pick, take Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
What if he doesn't develop, or he gets injured, or all this? Like, there's all these things that could happen, even if that happens. Like, basketball's complex. This is why we love it. It's the melodrama. It's what do you do? I bring it up all the time. Kevin O'Connor got shafted in the lottery the year they lost all those games after they signed Carlos Boozer and Mehmet Okur. He traded up to 3 to get the player he wanted.
Yep.
You know, that's a great move by him. He was a really underrated GM for a long time, in my opinion, until the end there where he drafted Ennis.
That was a miss.
But he got a ton for Darren Williams. He flipped the roster between Carl and Boozer and Okur in that era in like 2 years, which is unthinkable in the NBA, and then was back in the conference finals, which is pretty amazing. Darren Williams was a great draft pick. That was a great trade if you look and see, like, kind of what we were getting. There's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it.
I think the other thing that you're touching on, but not quite just saying out loud, is did the Jazz fall apart when they drafted Ennis or Dante and missed on both? No. Like, they were fine. So
no, they hit on a trade with both Donovan and Rudy, both with the Nuggets, ironically enough.
Yeah.
Great moves.
Yeah, right. So, somebody will fill the gap. Somebody will step up. They always do. I don't think the Jazz are headed for 10 straight years of, innocuous or irrelevant basketball. Even if whoever you get this year, wherever you fall in the draft. The nice thing is, I guess, about the lottery is if you do bad this year and you don't get a guy, you're going to be bad again next year. You're going to get another crack at it, ideally. So I'm with you. I don't think the entire season comes down to what happens in the lottery, though certainly hope for a top 3 pick.
Yeah. And I also hate the argument of, you have to have the best player in the league to win, which it's basketball. Yeah. Having the best player is a huge advantage.
Really helps.
You don't say.
Yeah. But the Bucks aren't going to win a
But how
title this
many
year.
best players are there in the league, Ben?
Right.
Uno.
1.
There's 1.
Right.
There's 1 at one time.
Right.
And so the rest of the league, what are they supposed to do?
Right.
Give up and not try? Because what if that best player gets hurt in the playoffs, or Zaza Pachulia decides to slide under somebody, which absolutely got the Warriors their first title?
I think so.
I mean, but it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So I don't like that thinking. Well, actually, I kind of do, because it's kind of can't win, don't try. But, I mean, I hope NBA execs don't have that. And I know the Jazz are trying to get the best player in the league, or the best player they can, or that's absolutely the game. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. I mean, but Celtics won last year, didn't have the best player in the league.
But it's what do you do when it doesn't go your way? Or what do you do when the ping pong ball doesn't come up? Or what do you do when you do boot a draft pick? How do you
adjust?
How do you adjust? How do you build?
Yeah.
How patient is your fan base? Did you see crowd shots of that Charlotte arena?
Oh, yeah, they're gone. There's no crowd. No, I didn't see any crowd shots. Shots of empty chairs.
Listen, North Carolina, that state, is in love with the game of basketball.
Yeah.
It is part of their culture. It's very similar to Indiana in that way. Like the Charlotte Hornets, during the Larry Johnson, Lonzo Mourning, that era, that was the most intimidating environment in the league. They should be a really patient franchise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you lose, how long until people stop supporting? Because it can't go that long. And actually, the Jazz could go for a while, I bet, and not lose a ton of support. But patience doesn't last forever.
It doesn't.
So it's how do you make that calculus, and what do you do about it? Is this a failure if they don't get the number 1 pick? No.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad. I'm glad you feel that way.
Was it a failure when you didn't make $500 at the Wendover Casino?
Never have.
What are you going to do about it?
That might hurt worse than the Jazz not getting the number 1 overall pick.
I
Losing
don't think
$500 stinks. That's a lot of money.
I don't think I've ever lost $500.
Could buy the new Switch with that much money.
I think I've told you the story, but I've never lost $500 for this reason. Because one time going down there, I lost like $350 going to Vegas. It was my first time going to Vegas, 21. We were on a road trip and we were going like to California, and we're doing this whole thing. I lost every nickel I had on the first night. Like, true, it was only like $350.
But still.
But it was every.
What are you going to do for the rest of the time you're there?
$500 is not to my today value as much as $300. You know what I mean? And I had this weird impulse where it's like, I got to go win it back. And then I thought to myself, oh, this is how people get in trouble with this.
Yeah, right.
This is how it goes.
Yeah.
I should really just go back to the hotel room.
We should call it a day.
And since then, honestly, not that anyone cares about this, but I've had a policy of I take the cash out that I'm willing to lose, and then the ATM card gets left somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then when that's gone,
you can't get, there's no access to money.
I got to figure out something else.
Yeah.
I got to go do something else.
Yeah.
That's my little thing. So I've actually never lost $500
at one time.
Yeah. But that $350 I ate that first night in Vegas. Oh, Ben.
Steep.
Oh, I didn't eat for the rest of the trip. It was bad. It was really bad because my friends weren't going to cancel the trip because I didn't have any money. They were just like, well, good luck. All right. Stay tuned. We've got top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next is Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
G-Bang!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben Anderson. Want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contests and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union. All right, before we dive into top 3 stories of the day, there is some breaking news in the NBA world.
Okay.
And we love the NBA, of course, on this show. And then Christian is very rigid about his top 3 stories and is very attached to them personally and emotionally. So I would hate to bully a story off the list. So we'll just hit the breaking news and then we'll get to the stories. Glenn Taylor has agreed in principle to sell 100% ownership of the Minnesota Timberwolves to Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez for the originally agreed upon sum, which was, what was it, 2021, Ben?
Yeah, something like that.
Of $1.5 billion.
He is fighting. He has since fought tooth and nail to stop this.
Because the price tag was, or the value was going up and up and up.
He agreed to this deal right before the new TV deal.
Yeah.
And the new TV deal doubled the value of every franchise overnight. Like the Jazz are worth $3 billion now. That's how much Ryan Smith bought it for also.
Like the total bozo that Glenn Taylor is.
It is such a perfect encapsulation of him.
Total bozo.
It's the perfect ending of his run for him, I guess, to get his quote-unquote comeuppance, that the Boston Celtics are in agreement to sell for $6 billion without an arena right now. And that's not to say Minnesota is worth the same as the Boston Celtics, but this is arguably the best the Timberwolves have ever been in their franchise's history. Franchises have never been worth more money, and he's selling them at about half the cost.
It's worth at least double that.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yep, easily.
But he's been a terrible owner.
He's a bad owner.
He's made a bunch of bad decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, the only good decision pretty much he's ever made was hiring Flip Saunders multiple times, who somehow had a way of calming the chaos, and even then they weren't even that great.
Right. They had one good year.
So I don't know if I were a citizen of Minneapolis who was a Wolves fan, I'd be worried that the franchise is going to move. But I would guess that Laurie and A-Rod couldn't do much worse from an operational standpoint.
You would hope not, but Matt Ishbia is testing that theory in Phoenix.
Yeah, but is Matt Ishbia? Well, we don't. The book isn't written on Matt Ishbia, but it couldn't get much worse than Glenn Taylor.
No, it can't. They were incompetent.
So,
they were maybe the worst franchise in sports for 25 years.
For at least a period of that, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the Kevin McHale signing Joe Smith era was not great.
Yep.
All right. Top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com. Brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love. With J. Brooks Jewelers, explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where are we starting today?
Number 1, who's in, who's out for the Jazz at the Rockets tonight?
We did just get an updated injury report. I will tell you who's in. Walker Kessler is in. Colin Sexton is in. Jordan Clarkson we know is done for the year. John Collins is still out with the ankle sprain. Taylor Hendricks is done for the year. Lauri Markkanen remains out with left knee soreness. Cody Williams remains out with an illness. Jaden Springer is questionable. And then the G League guys are with the G League. Shout out the Salt Lake City Stars who beat Christian's Vipers last night.
Well, good. So I get to see Walker v. Şengün?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something to look forward to.
I told you after losing to Charlotte and putting 3 wins between those two teams, the Jazz can probably just play. You know what I mean? Like, just play. If you win games, fine. You're not going to catch Charlotte. You're not going to win 3 of your final 6. I get that they're not playing Lowry tonight. But if Charlotte loses out, you're going to control it at the end. If you just say, oh, man, we accidentally won 2 games, we're a game back of them, we can't win the rest of the year. Fine. That'll be the final 2 games of the season. You tank those games. You can play now. I think you can just go out there and play and have fun. Let Colin play. Let Walker go for it. Don't just have Walker sit out there and shoot threes, which they've done less of recently. I think you can really try and let fans have something to watch the last 6 games of the season if you want, and it's not going to hurt your draft positioning. Because, again, the difference between drafting 5 and 6, if worst-case scenario happened and you fell, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Nothing.
It's all about 1, 2, or 3. That's where you really want to be. If it's not there, the picks probably don't matter a whole lot. Or don't change a whole lot.
I agree with that take. And they're playing the Rockets, who are really good.
Yeah, they are. The Rockets want to beat you.
Yeah.
The Rockets still have the second-best record in the West, so go out there and,
Yeah, the Jazz could probably play everybody and not beat the Rockets, honestly.
Yeah, but try. Let Bryce Sensabaugh know what it feels like to try to win that game.
I agree. And, let Walker go...
go right at Şengün.
Go right at him,
Yeah, there are, the top young centers in the NBA going forward are probably, once we get past Jokic, which I have no idea when that will be, certainly going to be Victor Wembanyama, assuming he's able to come back from this blood clots issue, and Chet Holmgren. But like Şengün, Walker, they're that next group, and they're hoping to jump into that top group. So let them go for it.
And honestly, the Rockets are so good defensively. If the Jazz don't play as a team, they're going to score like 60 points. So,
correct.
Like maybe this is one of those games where you can really let it loose.
Right now, the Rockets are 2 games ahead of the Denver Nuggets, who had a very difficult loss last night in double overtime to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Speaking of the Timberwolves, Nuggets were up 1, stole the ball with 10 seconds left. Russell Westbrook stole the ball. Literally just needed to dribble out the clock or take a foul. He ran for a layup. He missed the layup. And then on the other end, he fouled Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a 3-point shot.
See, that, you know what? As we talk about who's the second best in the West, that's what gives me pause on the Nuggets.
And
they're way too reliant on Rusty.
Yeah, Jamal Murray was hurt and was not playing in this game. And if Jamal's out there, maybe Russell is not. But maybe Russell's still closing the game. And the problem was he got the steal, which should have ended the game. And then he proceeded to make 3 mistakes. Either dribble out the clock, or make your layup, or don't foul. You do one of those right in 10 seconds, you win the game. And he did all 3 of them wrong in very quick succession. Very tough loss.
Come on, Rusty.
Double overtime game where Nikola Jokic had a career-high 60-point triple-double. But one stinker from Westbrook can kill you.
That's just an example of how thin they are.
Yeah, they are.
All right. What's next, Christian?
Number 2, Utah Hockey Club beat Calgary again last night. That's back-to-back wins for the Clubbies.
Swept Calgary on the season. Again, they're still like 9 points back. St. Louis continues to win. St. Louis has won 10 straight games and is now actually, I think, jumped to Minnesota for the top wild card spot. So a little bit as much as you can say, like, you can rue them not playing better down the stretch. It's like you were you would have to be perfect to catch up to St. Louis, and they weren't. And one team just ran away with it and has all this momentum. We'll see what St. Louis is able to do in the playoffs. I'm not sure the Utah Hockey Club missing the playoffs is a sign that the team failed to do something late in the year, so much as you just saw one of those runs from another team you got to tip your cap to.
I'm just upset they're winning.
Yeah. Now, will they keep starting veg?
They're just, I mean, honestly, and I don't mean to oversimplify here, but they're screwing the fan base and their future.
Killing the fan base.
They are. I mean, it's losing these games that will determine the future of the franchise.
And
they just do. They just go out and win back to back.
What
are they doing?
You're being facetious. I get it, and I hope if our listeners don't know, you are talking about the fans who are mad every time the Jazz win a game that they should be losing. The thing is, they actually are they have called up guys like Yamamoto's playing games now. Like they have some young players that are up that are auditioning for spots next year.
Well, start poisoning their food, Ben, because they're playing too well.
So they're not tanking games, certainly, because Vejmelka's still playing. You know, if they wanted to lose or weren't worried about winning, they would pull Vejmelka, and I think he started 18 straight games now. They would find other ways to play. But yes, they are playing some names that may not be familiar to Utah Hockey Club fans right now at the moment.
Well, they're playing too well.
They are. They're playing great. Still fun to watch.
It would have been really cool if they made the playoffs. It's a successful season. You know what the general manager told us was going to happen before the season began. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. They're playing great. Honestly, it's been a fun year. And you know what the nice thing is? You've set yourself up to have something to chase next year. You know what I mean? Like you've raised the bar. You're better than you were last year. You didn't quite make the playoffs. That's the goal next year. This was a great, I think, very successful inaugural season. Now you make the run for it next year.
Infamous tough guy Nick Olczyk will be on the show at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Is he our toughest guest? I mean, takes a puck to the face.
Have we ever talked to Mick Cronin? He's the toughest guy in the room.
That's funny. No, we haven't.
We haven't
had old Mick on the show.
Dang.
Got to worry. Christian, see if we can get Mick on.
Call Mick.
We'll bump Nick Olczyk from toughest guest on the Jake and Ben show.
Number three.
What's number three?
Number 3, McDonald's All-American game last night. AJ Dybantsa showed out.
Did play well, did not win MVP. There were co-MVPs. It's the other two top players in this class. Cam Boozer, who, yes, is the son of Carlos Boozer, who is headed to Duke with his twin brother. And his twin brother's name's Caden. It's not as good a player. And Darren Peterson, who's going to Kansas. Darren Peterson was kind of the third guy in this group a year ago at this time. AJ and Cam Boozer were number 1 and 2. And Darren Peterson has leapt both of them. He's somewhat otherworldly all of a sudden.
You know what? I am rooting for Caden Boozer. the other one.
Yeah.
Because it's not his fault.
I like this take.
Like every time some radio bozo mentions his name, it's he's the crappy one.
He's the crappy brother.
It was Robin Lopez.
Yeah.
Every time some radio bozo would be like, oh, they've got Robin Lopez on the team. They've got Robin Lopez. Oh, he's the crappy one. Oh, well.
Dang.
That's too bad.
Poor guy.
I mean, I'm pulling for Caden.
Caden is still projected as a first-round draft pick. Don't get me wrong.
And
he's not going to be number 1 or 2.
And you still have to qualify it with he's the crappy one. You did it. I didn't do it. You did it. He's the one who's not very good.
By the way,
I mean, I'm really happy for Jello Ball that he's finding success in the music business because he was the crappy brother forever. Everybody's like, well, Lonzo, and then LaMelo. LaMelo's the best one. Lonzo's the first one. Jello is stealing glasses in China. He never had a chance. He was always the crappy one.
A lot of familiar names in next year's draft. There are 2 Boozers. There's an Arenas. There's another Sarr, Alex
Harper?
Sarr's little brother. Yeah, well, that's this year's draft. I'm talking about next year's draft.
Okay.
We are just getting more heavily into the offspring of the people we grew up watching.
Yeah, you're talking Dybantsa. Sorry.
More and more we are starting to see that. Dyson Daniels' little brother is going to be in the NBA next year. You're just seeing a lot of very familiar names if you're a basketball fan. But a lot of people still have AJ Dybantsa, going number 1 overall next year. I'm excited to watch this race.
Poor Seth Curry.
Yeah, the ugly one.
He's carved himself out a fine career.
He's a great player.
But he's the crappy one.
At least he had a Nike presentation.
Yeah, at least they spelled his name right.
for his brother's presentation. Again, Nico Harrison, not the smartest.
Made some mistakes.
That was a big one.
But by the way, AJ did still play well last night. 16 points. You know what I like? 0 3-point attempts. Good job, AJ. Don't just sit out there and chuck it at the basket. 7 of 12 shooting. 17 points, 5 rebounds.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. Nick Olczyk, top of the 11 o'clock hour. What you got Wednesday at 11:30. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Ken Pomeroy from KenPom.com.
Have you seen this column from Dan Wolkin? I'm going to need Jake to pull this up.
We must bow down to Ken Pom, who nailed this college basketball season like nobody ever has. Here's what his numbers tell us about this Final Four.
Wait, I thought somebody said you were full bleep.
Oh, yeah, Kevin Willard said that. And he left Maryland to go to Villanova in the middle of the night, like the Baltimore Colts.
Quote, all hail Ken Pomeroy, the king of the calculator, the seer of the stats, the architect of the analytics, and the executive of efficiency.
So this is a pinnacle of a legendary run that you've had as a professional. I'm wondering how much does this make up for DJ not having any idea who you were and make you go around and not let you come through the door?
It doesn't quite make up for that.
Boom, roasted.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is Wednesday, meaning it's a win ticket Wednesday. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. You're going to win 2 tickets to see Volbeat at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Greatest of all tours worldwide on July 19th with special guests Hailstorm and The Ghost Inside. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. Ben, we have Nick Olczyk at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Can I point out something that from the world of sports that kind of bugs me and is evidence that some people truly are bad people?
Okay. Good tease.
Have you been following? Well, listen, it's obvious. The NFL is pure evil. We can break that down.
Correct.
But they're pure evil.
But my goodness, are Sundays fun?
Well, they're talking about rule changes, right? And the tush push has been a thing which the Eagles obviously really weaponized last season. They've tabled it, Ben. They've tabled it until May.
Okay.
So of course they can lick their finger and stick it into the air and see which way the wind's blowing. But the argument...
Careful doing that with the tush push.
The argument that the NFL teams or whatever, the people against it, are making is a health argument.
Okay.
It's an unsafe play.
It's too dangerous.
So here's what bugs me. Why are they lying when there's no reason to lie? Like, there's no reason to cite health, which is a lie. There are dangerous plays in football. If you outlawed all of them,
every play's dangerous.
Then there would not be a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lie. In the past, they've used health to change rules that they actually wanted to change anyway, but it did coincide with health. For example, the big hits over the middle. They want to see more touchdowns. Right. They want to see more offense.
Right.
It was better for the game, and they said, well, it's healthier for our players that they don't suffer these big hits. The intentions were intertwined. And so that became a good crisis to move the ball on stuff. Who was it? Rahm Emanuel that said, never let a good crisis go to waste?
Yeah.
Like, you're just lying about that now.
Right.
To change a rule that you want to be changed. It's almost like it's your go-to just for anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They did not like big hits. They just like touchdowns more.
And I'll explain why this really bothers me, and there's no need to lie in just a second. But it does remind me of this, and I know that Bronco is back in the market kind of, and but I'm going to still bring up this example because when BYU was considering going independent in football, it was a couple of months that led up to that. It wasn't a story that broke right away. There was rumors and all sorts of things for a couple of months. It was spring ball, and Bronco was asked about it. He said, "Are you guys going to go independent?" And it turned out that BYU went independent like the next day or something like that.
Right.
And Bronco's response was, "What did he say? I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that." Yeah, you do.
Yeah, right.
And honestly, there's no need to lie about that. You just say, "Listen, that's the athletic department."
Yeah.
Tom's taking the lead on the future of the athletic department. You don't even have to be specific about going independent or conference affiliation or anything. You could just have to say, hey, there's always conversations going on, but the school's policy on that one is above my pay grade. Go ask Tom. That's all he had to say.
Right.
But instead, he went to the lie. I don't know anything about that. And it makes me think, like, what else are you just
not telling the
casually lying about? Mm-hmm. That's what it makes me. For the NFL, all you have to do, Ben, is say this play is not fair.
Yeah.
We should take this play out of the game because it's not fair. The NFL legislates fairness constantly. They don't need an excuse. In the Canadian Football League, the wide receivers can run toward the line before the ball is snapped.
Right.
That's not a rule in the NFL because of not safety,
fairness,
but competitive fairness, the product. So just say, listen, this play is not fair. It's not fair to have a quarterback be pushed by somebody behind because that's out of the spirit of the game or whatever argument you want to make.
Whatever you want to
but it's not a fair play. But people don't want to make that argument or figure out a way to make that argument because it's far easier to just say, well, that play's unsafe.
Yeah.
That's not the reason you don't want it. So go and make an argument as why it's unfair. I would buy into it's unfair. It's an automatic 4 yards on every play. It's a cheat code. It is. It's unfair.
I'm glad nobody runs it as their entire offense. I have no problem if that's your goal line package. I'm glad they're not banning it. It doesn't bother me. It's a great play. If you can't stop it, that's your problem. That's not my problem. So I'm glad they haven't banned it yet. Yes, if some team decided it's an automatic 4 yards every play and we're going to run an entire quarter by just getting 4 yards and milking the clock.
And there's nothing you can do about it?
Nothing you can do about it. I guess I might laugh at that and then not want to watch it anymore. Maybe then I would understand banning it. For right now, it's so situational. And they might use it, 4 times a game?
No, the Eagles used it more than that. They used it more than
goal line and fourth
situational.
And short. That's when they use it.
I honestly don't care.
Yeah, but it doesn't bother me at all.
The problem is it's not aesthetically pleasing, as you point out, which the NFL is all about their game being watchable. They don't want some unwatchable cheat code to be. But again, then use that as a reason.
Yeah.
But I think it discounts when the health thing is a legitimate argument. Like, we should not be spearing wide receivers.
Yes.
As they go across the middle for the health of both the receiver and the one delivering the blow. That's a really good argument.
Agreed.
And something that should absolutely be considered and that 100% legitimate. That has nothing to do with the tush push.
The danger of the tush push, which does exist, Guy. You know what I mean?
No more than any other
correct.
NFL play.
No, I guarantee you every offensive or defensive lineman scoffs at the idea that that's the play that should be outlawed.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, we do that every single possession. We smash heads every single play. Why is this the one that they're focused on? Again, it's because it's not aesthetically pleasing. I think you're right.
All right, stay tuned. Nick Olczyk is going to join the show coming up next, our good buddy. And then What You Got Wednesday at 11:30. Stay tuned. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Join Hans and Scotty today at RGS Exteriors from noon to 3, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. Thank you for playing this for me today, Christian. Appreciate you and all your good work. Yes, I wore my Rolling Stones t-shirt today.
The song's actually in honor of Nick Olczyk's bruise and painted black.
Oh, okay.
At that stage
Good
now.
transition there, Ben. Joining us now, he's an analyst for the Utah Hockey Club. He joins us each and every week. He's our buddy, Nick Olczyk. What's going on, Nick?
Jake and Ben, what's going on, boys?
Nick, are you old enough where bruises now don't go away? They just sink lower on your body? Because that's
I'm actually pretty lucky. It's all gone now. It went from blue to purple to yellow to green, and then now it's just my natural skin pigmentation. So it's I tried to wear it. It hurt, but I'm not going to deny that. But nice to be back, I guess you could say, fully healthy from my lower body injury.
You should make a color chart for healing, so you know how far you are in the process. Well, it's gone green.
I'm going to leave that to the doctor. My best friend Joey is a doctor, so I'm going to leave that to him.
Man, speaking of injuries, we saw both Cooley and Gunther take some shots to the face last night. Yeah. Gunther's particularly, the puck off the face. I can't believe. Can you explain this culture to me? I get it, it's the tough guy thing, but like, are masks, full masks, and neck guards going to be mandatory at some point? Is that inevitable?
I think you have a better chance at neck guards being the case, but no chance we would ever have full masks being mandatory in the National Hockey League. I think it's just, look, I think for a couple of reasons. First, it's the comfortability of the players, and I think everybody, from a player's perspective, would sit there and say, oh, well, why don't you just wear everything and do everything you can to be as safe as possible and wear the neck guard and wear the wrist guards. And while I think those are important things, if a player wants, at the end of the day, if it's not comfortable for the player and they're willing to, I guess, risk by not wearing it, then that's their choice, of course. And we want these guys to be feeling comfortable, but of course, keep them as protected as possible. So, there has been a lot of change lately and recently, around wearing neck guards and rightfully so after some of the awful tragedy we saw over in England and a couple of players having some real close calls, getting their throats cut and things of that nature. But also, the protective gear, the kind of the Kevlar socks that they can wear to help keep from any sort of Achilles injuries or ankle injuries. And some guys do wear wrist guards and whatnot too. So, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what the players want, what the National Hockey League Players Association wants for their players. And but you do from time to time see guys wear the face mask or wear a bubble and that, being because guys have facial injuries, whether it's a nose or a cheek or a chin or a forehead. And then, that at least protects them, but still allows them to go out and play. So, at the end of the day, I think it's more of a comfortability and a choice thing for the players, and they're going to make the choices that they think is best to make them play their best.
It's just sad that the softies like Ben are eventually going to win. Aren't we all just, the softies
please wear the
in
neck
the culture
guard. Please put on the neck guard. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. But
it's a real shame.
Please mandate the neck guard.
It was a great country we used to have. Nick, what can this team accomplish in these last games, being that the playoff is basically out of reach? I mean, more or less. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a continuation of everything that this team and the organization's been building. It has been an incredible year. If you think back at the very beginning when General Manager Bill Armstrong and Team President Chris Armstrong met with the media, their goal and their expectations were very clear, is that they wanted this team to be playing competitive games at the end of the season, which is exactly what they've done. And you talk about the sellouts at Delta Center and the incredible noise and just, everything that this team has done in terms of growing the players and developing the young guys that are still young but are not so young anymore. I just want to see this team continue to have a strong finish. And look, I mean, it's not a 0% chance. Yes, it's going to take a lot. Yes, it's going to be, they're going to need to win out and they're going to need a lot of help from the teams above them, of course. But at the end of the day, there's still so much you can pull from this season. And, I think too, it's also important, for these players. I think last night was a great example of what it takes to win. And, they had a 2-1 lead. They played a simple, hard brand of hockey where they got pucks out of their zone. They didn't try to be too fancy with it. And they made the plays that they needed to make. And, the big boys came to play, and those were the guys that were there to execute in the moments that the rest of the team needed. And, Karel Vejmelka, 18 starts in a row, comes through and looks as if he had a full week of rest in terms of the saves he made, especially at important moments, to keep Utah in the lead. So, look, I think there's still so much to play for, aside from the players wanting to get more points, and the team, of course, want to get more wins. I mean, you have some players on this team that are fighting for roster spots for next year and trying to improve their stock and improve their role in the eyes of the coaching staff as well as the hockey operations staff. So, in seasons like this, whether you're going to make it, whether you're not, until you're out, these guys are going to continue to play their heart out. I have no doubt about it. And 4 games left in the regular season at Delta Center. I would encourage anybody and everybody, if you haven't been to a game, get out, because the atmosphere is second to none. And also, there's still a lot of great things to play for and fight for the guys that are wearing the Mountain Blue.
What has made the path to the playoffs so difficult is St. Louis going on an absolute tear. Now, about a month and a half ago, Nick, we had you on, and you said, these teams that make playoffs, generally you look and they go on an 8-game winning streak. They go on a 10-game winning streak. With that said, that's exactly what St. Louis has done. They are unbeatable at the moment. Is that common? Do we see this every year, or is this kind of a historic run that we're seeing from the Blues?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say that you see it every year, but there are teams that catch fire. And, I am a huge believer in putting a good run of form together as you go into the playoffs. Like, ideally, you want to be playing your best and peaking come playoff time, which is why, you'll see some teams that are in the playoffs but may not be playing as well, a month out. And then, but they're going to be, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine, once the playoffs come, because they're able to put together, a good run of form and have everybody clicking on all cylinders. And, this is the time of year where you're looking to dig in, and there's nothing else more important than this type of hockey. And I think most importantly for these guys, you're building something special. And you look around the league, and there's nothing you could do. You can't do anything with what St. Louis has done. And it was not 2.5 weeks ago that Minnesota was sitting pretty cool, calm, and collected in that top wild card spot. And then here come the St. Louis Blues, as you had mentioned, rattling up 10 wins in a row, and by far the best record. I think it's like 14-2-2 they are, or 13-2-2 since coming out of the Four Nations break. Meanwhile, the Calgary Flames are in the mix, but still 6 points out. They have a game, 2 games in hand on St. Louis. And then you have Vancouver sandwiched there in the middle too. So, for teams that are really playing their best hockey this time of the year, that's exactly what you're looking for. But as far as is this a usual run? I would say no. And it wasn't that long ago that there was talk for the Blues being sellers and trading their captain at the deadline. And I think it's been a real rallying cry for them as they've headed down here at the most important time of the season. And, they have really found a heavy stride and have made it really difficult on, the teams below them to catch anybody in that second and first wild card.
Nick, who do we, and I use the word we because I'm absolutely going to steal your opinion. Who do we talked about the Blues, but like going into the playoffs, and why?
Well, I think it's hard to argue with what Winnipeg has done this year. They're the first in the West and the best in the league for a reason. But when I look at the West as a whole, it's hard to go against the Vegas Golden Knights. They're big. They're strong. They can play any way you want to play. They've got superstar depth when you look at their top center and Jack Eichel, and you go right down the line. Other guys in the lineup, Mark Stone, you proven playoff performers, and on the back end, Shea Theodore, he's really a moose on the back end because he carries the puck. He can send you down to your rear in the D zone if you try to go by him. As good of a skating defenseman as there is, but overall, I mean, this is as good of a chance for 5 or 6 teams to make it through the West. With what Winnipeg has done, Dallas went and got Mikko Rantanen at the deadline. He's been a strong fit there after signing the extension. The Colorado Avalanche are always right there, and it's just such a shame, guys, that that we're going to lose a really, really great team in the first round, because with how it's shaken out right now, you're going to have Dallas and Colorado in the first round, And you're going to have, as it stands, for the 5th consecutive year, you're going to have Edmonton taking on LA. All 4 prior years, Edmonton won. So is this the year that LA can finally get through the Edmonton Oilers? As it stands right now, they're going to have home ice advantage, but still about 8 games left for both of those teams. But if I had to pick, with playoff experience, with everything that they've got in the team, both forwards and defensemen, I think the Vegas Golden Knights have as good of a chance as anybody to make it to really deep, and especially with the run that they've been on. It hasn't been 10 in a row, but they do have 7 wins in their last 10 games. So it is they are also seemingly peaking at the right time.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Do playoff goals count for Ovechkin if he doesn't break Gretzky's before the end of the regular season?
They do not. Unfortunately, they do not. But only needs 4 more to break it.
They've got 8 games.
Yeah. Oh, I think he does it. Yeah, Alexander Ovechkin is one of those guys that when there is a goal in front of him, he's going to go out and get it done in the shortest period of time possible. And I think aside from all of this, guys, the attention that this has generated, I think it's so good for the game. I think it has been equally as amazing to see how excited Wayne Gretzky has been about it and how supportive he has been of Alexander Ovechkin, wanting him to break it and wanting him to surpass him as having scored the most goals in National Hockey League history. It is, I guess, word on the street is that Wayne and Commissioner Mr. Bettman, Gary Bettman, are going to be trying to follow along and hopefully be in attendance for when Alex ties and breaks Wayne's, what we thought, unbreakable record. So just everything and the attention and everything around this, I think, it's so good for the game because it's bringing eyes to the game, eyes that maybe would not have thought about watching hockey before. And I was actually talking with some colleagues last night. Like, what can we compare this to? A record that you never thought could be broken, most goals. How could you compare that? And we kind of came to the conclusion that this really is kind of the Hank Aaron passing Babe Ruth for most home runs at that time. Because you'd never thought that this would be something that could be achieved, especially in the modern day game now, with how good goalies are, with how great other players are, with how strong defensemen are. So, it really is a moment that when he ties and when he breaks, it'll be a where were you when moment. And 8 games left, 4 goals to break it. And I don't think there's any doubt that the grade 8 is going to get it done.
Can you explain to me, as a layman, because, I get it with basketball and, Jordan's the best ever, and his stats just aren't so far and away from anybody else. LeBron's played for 20 seasons, is the best ever. His stats, while no one's ever going to break his scoring record, aren't so far removed from anybody else. How is Gretzky 1,000 points up on the closest player? I mean, I honestly don't get how one player can be so far ahead. He'd be the all-time points leader with just assists, right?
That's exactly where I was going.
How is it possible?
If you took away all of Wayne Gretzky's goals, he would still have the most points in NHL history. So, look, I think that just goes to show how dominant he was back in the day. And he could do anything. He could score. He could pass. He was a difference maker every single night. And look, the game was different back then. Guys weren't as big and fast and strong. And I still think, one of the conversations is, could Wayne Gretzky put up a lot of points in the modern game? You know what? With how well he thinks the game, I think he could be one of the top point getters and goal scorers and assist guys. I don't have any doubt or any question about that. But back then, he was so far advanced of everybody else, and he knew 2 or 3 steps ahead what was going to happen. Like that to me, aside from the great speed and the shot and the vision, his anticipation level was at a level that no one else could touch. And when you go back and you watch the old tape and you see some of the goals that he scored, how many he scored and how he scored them, there is a lot of reasons that point to him being the greatest player of all time, and there is absolutely no question about that. But just he was so far ahead of his time. And, I think when we get older, I guess when I get older, I'll be looking back and saying, on a couple guys that I grew up watching or players that we're seeing now, those guys having been far ahead of their time too with their speed and their strength and the technology that they have too. So, he's the greatest of all time in terms of overall player. There's no question about that. But this chase has really sparked something special within the greatest game on earth.
Nick, we appreciate you and all of your fine work, and thank you very much for jumping on the show.
Excited to talk next week.
Yeah, as always. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, boys, anytime. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. That's our friend Nick Olczyk, who jumps on with us once a week. Ben, should we be upset that this record is leaving North America? Should we be upset that Ovechkin is a Russian? I mean, it's one thing to share these records with the Canadians. He
scored all the goals here, and he scored them all for a United States team. I don't want to say American team. Canada's part of America, right?
All I'm saying is somewhere today, your guy Vladimir Putin is very excited about this.
Yeah, tap dancing.
Yeah.
4 goals away.
That's not okay.
Where's Wayne Gretzky born?
Canada.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm fine with a Canadian dominating the sport of hockey.
Some dude from Pennsylvania.
You know what I mean? I don't know where Gordie Howe is from, but
maybe
it's
Canada's having a harder time with it than the U.S. is.
But this is North America's game.
Gordie Howe is Canadian.
The original 6 was both the United States and Canada. This game is ours, and we're gonna just let a Russian take one of its most prestigious records?
Well, if, was it Patrick Kane the best American player of all time? If Patrick Kane had this record, maybe we'd worry about it.
Oh, you don't sympathize with the Canadians?
I do.
Okay,
our northern brothers. I'm friends with our northern brothers.
Okay, we just learned everything we needed to learn right there.
I was rooting for Edmonton to beat Florida last year in the playoffs. Don't try and flip this.
Days,
don't try and flip this.
Today of all days. Wow.
I was thrilled to see Edmonton make the Stanley Cup Finals last year.
Canadians on the same level as the Russians. I didn't know we were going to dive into foreign policy on this show today, but wow, the curtains have been
tariff records.
The curtains have been pulled back.
He has to score 25% more goals for it to count.
Wow,
there's a tariff on goals the rest of the way.
Who knew?
I suspect Wayne Gretzky's numbers were a modern version of how Wilt Chamberlain's numbers don't make sense in the context of the NBA. How did a guy average 50 points and 25 rebounds in a game?
Except for Wayne Gretzky didn't play that long ago.
No, he didn't. But again, as Nick said, he was
and hockey hasn't changed that much.
I actually think the technology has changed a crazy amount. Where I have tried to go back and look at, I was looking at Jaromir Jagr highlights and Bobby Orr highlights. It's just the goalie is wearing the same clothes I'm wearing right now. It's he's 5'5". The goal looks enormous behind him. It looks like you're shooting into a church stage behind a basketball hoop. It looks enormous behind him. It's they must have scored 15 goals a game because the net was so big. It was so easy to shoot at because the goalies didn't have the big pads on, nor were they as talented nor nearly as fast as they are now. So in that aspect that he is breaking it in today's day and age with huge goalies, the net looks so small. The game is clearly so much faster. The talent top to bottom is so high because it is so international. Is pretty awesome. But yeah, Wilt dominating a bunch of guys that were, 6'5" playing center probably actually is a little bit more similar to what Wayne Gretzky was doing, though I suspect it wasn't that big of a gap.
Yeah, you can keep backpedaling with some random hockey take all you want, but we all heard it. We all heard your lack of sympathy and really brotherhood
for the Canadians,
for the Canadian people.
Oh, no.
You say, a Russian takes one of the prestigious hockey records, and you've got no problem because he took it from a Canadian. Yeah,
I'm saying why U.S., why the Americans, why the United States.
We know
players don't care.
Yeah, we know. America first. We got it. All right, stay tuned. What You Got Wednesday coming up next is Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Will Hardy has been dealt a very difficult hand. I've had multiple people ask me, is Will Hardy a good coach? And I tell them, I'm not going to assess it until he's got a good player.
Yes.
Because this league isn't built of good coaches. This league is built of good players that make good coaches. Now, where I will start the assessment is when I hear those kinds of sound bites and somebody saying, well, what do you need him to do? Pass the MFing ball.
And that was just unacceptable. Pass the mother ball. Run back on defense.
You could hear the tone. Like, I feel that, Coach. I can grasp that. Coach Hardy, on behalf of the Jazz fan base that's been paying a lot of money to come to those games, thank you. That felt so good to listen to.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for What You Got Wednesday. If you're new to the show, Ben and I go head-to-head every Wednesday on 2 5-selection drafts, one sports-related, one not. And we decide who goes first based on last week's results. Christian, how did we do last week?
Last week, most unlikable college basketball coaches. Jake, you won 61-39, and then we did favorite Nepo baby actors. Ben, you won 61-39.
Same score.
Forgot to grab my dry erase marker.
I'm pretty bummed I didn't win Nepo baby actors. I thought I had that in the bag. All right, so I get the first pick in the coaches in the sports-related draft. Ben gets the first pick in not sports-related. What is our sports-related topic today?
Let's go with best Jazz player rivalries.
So this is the franchise's rivalry with the player.
Not player on player.
No, their rivalry specifically with the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
I get the first pick. Is there an automatic number one in your opinion?
Don't I get the first pick? You won coaches.
Ben gets the first
you
pick
get the first pick. Sorry.
I do think there is, because he's kept up the charade forever, and it's got to be Vernon Maxwell. The Houston Rocket, Vernon Maxwell, continues to rip on Utah and the Jazz. But, Vernon Maxwell.
I think there is a number one pick, and I think it's Michael Jordan.
MJ.
I mean, considering... You know, you might say, make the argument, and I guess I'd listen to it, that, Michael Jordan's everybody's rival. But the fact that he went scorched earth on Brian Russell in his Hall of Fame speech, and he was the one who hit the shots to do in the Jazz, and he is the reason that they do not have a title right now, I think it's MJ.
I'm going to go with, I don't think you're wrong. I just think Maxwell's a little more infamous. I'm going to go with, because they took the ring together, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman in those finals runs, going back and forth with Carl, and then
he wrestled
fighting
Carl
with Diamond Dallas Page and Hulk Hogan.
I think it was Hollywood Hogan at the time.
Dennis Rodman.
You mean the ambassador to North Korea, that Dennis Rodman?
The one and only?
Oh, all right. That's a good one. Him tackling Carl in the finals?
Yeah.
You know?
Great.
I don't think there was a more unpopular player here maybe ever.
Jerry Sloan tried to fight him when he was with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Blew the kiss at the free throw line.
All right, this may seem on the nose given my first pick, but I'm going to take Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe put the Jazz out of the playoffs, what was it, 2 or was it 3 years in a row with the Boozer Darren Williams era? It was 2 years in a row. No, it might have been 3. Anywho, he called out the Jazz fan base for booing Derek Fisher.
Yeah. And for booing Carl when Carl came back.
Right. And then, Gail Miller gave him some skis when he retired, which was a randomly cool moment.
It's like 3 days ago, the anniversary.
In the arena. So there was like this kind of respect thing where he got a big ovation when he was retiring. And then hits 60 on 60 shots in his final game against the Jazz.
He had the airball game here.
Oh,
it was a great
point. Yeah. All right, I'm going with Kobe. I feel even better about it.
No, I think that's a good pick. I'm going to go with, it's a little recent. I'm going to go with Draymond Green, specifically because Draymond Rudy Gobert was a real thing. Now, it has taken a next level since Rudy has gone to Minnesota with Draymond Green trying to murder Rudy Gobert by strangling him.
But it was a thing here.
Too. He was talking the crying thing, remember, was a big issue, and he was mad that Rudy cried when he missed the All-Star game. So, Draymond Green.
All right. I think I'm a little torn from here, but I'm going to go with Paul George because of the push-off P series alone, where Joe Ingles took him out of the series.
Great.
And Joe Ingles was just a guy.
Playoff P.
And he was calling himself Playoff P coming into the playoffs. And he hit a big shot in, what was it, game 1 or something like that, where he pushed off, and then everybody was like, it's push-off P.
Yeah.
And then remember, that was supposed to be a super team.
Yes.
That Paul George demanded out of Indiana to go to Oklahoma City. They signed Carmelo Anthony. It's supposed to be this big thing.
Right.
And the Jazz took him out in the playoffs.
With a rookie, Donovan Mitchell.
Thanks in large part to Joe Ingles taking out Paul George.
Paul George had a big game 1 and a big game 5 to erase a 20-point halftime deficit, and then the Jazz beat him in 6 very easily.
Yep.
That was a good matchup. All right, you know what? I'll actually go. I was going to change up my board. I'll go recent again. I'm going to go with Russell Westbrook, who has had run-ins with Jazz fans, who has had run-ins with Rudy Gobert, who has yelled a lot at Jazz teams. Jazz did beat him in the playoffs. He tried to also strangle Ricky Rubio, right? He said, Ricky Rubio's not going to do that to me again. And then I think Ricky Rubio hung a triple-double on him. That was awesome.
Yeah, Rusty's a villain.
Yeah, he's a great villain.
Yeah, no doubt.
And an all-time, and has a lot of run-ins specifically here in Salt Lake City. Some of them actually ugly, some of them playful and fun.
And is the first member of this list to be a part of the Jazz.
Twice. 2-time Jazz man.
Okay, I think why I'm picking this will make sense. I'm actually picking between a couple of players here, but I'm going to go with Gary Payton.
He's on my list.
Gary was, I thought, John Stockton's best rival when John was at his best. Like, Gary Payton was the glove. Seattle was another dominant team at the time. It was Payton to Sean Kemp. And they lost to the Sonics in the conference finals one year.
96.
Gary Payton.
It's a good pick. This is my last pick. And that makes it tough because there's some obvious names out there. There's star power that I'm passing on, but I'm going to go with the one man who did beat up Jeff Hornacek.
Jerry Stackhouse.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped. That's a good one.
Don't beat up Jeff Hornacek. Jeff's a really nice person. Why are you beating up Jeff Hornacek, Jerry Stackhouse? Also fought Jerry Sloan.
Somebody in the parking lot.
Fought Karl Malone.
Yeah, Stackhouse. That's a good one.
Stack's a lunatic. Don't beat up Jeff Hornacek. Come on, man.
My final pick, and I hope people listen to the podcast so they can hear these justifications. Encourage voters to listen to the podcast. I'm going to go with our boy Zeke.
Okay.
Isaiah Thomas.
Sure.
And here's my reasoning. The Jazz didn't play the Pistons really in any consequential games, but Karl Malone did split his face open with an elbow.
Tried to decapitate him.
And Karl did that a couple of times in his career, if you remember. He also did it to David Robinson. Do you remember the reaction of the fans when it happened to David Robinson?
Dirty hit.
Oh, my Lanta. Oh, not the Admiral. Even
David's
Jazz
too
fans.
nice of a guy.
Yeah, Karl Malone went to the hospital to visit him or whatever.
Yeah.
What was the reaction from the overall fan base and the rest of the league, for that matter, when it happened to Isaiah Thomas?
Had it coming.
Man, secretly, they're giving Karl the nod like,
wish it had been
way
me.
to go.
Yeah. Glad someone finally did it.
Isaiah Thomas. All right, review.
Ben, you had the first overall pick. You went Vernon Maxwell, Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green, Russell Westbrook, and Jerry Stackhouse. Jake, you went Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Paul George, Gary Payton, and Isaiah Thomas. Solid list.
Well, my 5 would definitely beat your 5, but that was not the purpose of the exercise.
Left Shaq, Rasheed Wallace. And,
Shaq with tag.
Yeah.
That would have been a good one.
Tim Duncan. Just because the rivalry was that fans were like, I think Karl's better. It's like, he's not. Karl wasn't close to the player that Tim
Except for
was.
Karl and Tim weren't really contemporaries.
It was the end of one, the beginning of the other.
Yeah. That was a different time. And the Jazz never competed with the Spurs when the Spurs were good.
Correct.
Devin Booker.
Book's
maybe.
good. Hakeem Olajuwon. Another good name. Hakeem, Walk Like an Egyptian was a song that came out.
And didn't he punch a Jazz guy?
He did. He punched Billy Pultz. Yeah.
Ended Billy's career, I think, right? Or something close to it.
At least embarrassed him. Hakeem used to throw a lot of punches. He punched Kareem one time.
All right. What's next?
For our Not Sports draft today, in honor of Val Kilmer, we're going to go with best Val Kilmer movies.
You know I have an eraser, Ben.
I asked for a dry erase and eraser a minute ago, and you didn't say anything.
I didn't hear you. Best Val Kilmer movies. I like this one. In honor of his death at 65, I love Val Kilmer. Now, he's one of those that has several really good movies, and then like 100 that really stink.
10 is a little bit of a stretch for him, but I actually think it's like exactly the number. I think he has 10 good movies.
Okay, well, we'll see how this goes.
And one of them I like and not everyone likes. So maybe he only has 9 good movies.
Is there an obvious number one pick?
I think there is, though I don't think it's his best movie.
I don't think it's his best movie either. I think there is an obvious number one pick, even though it is not my favorite either. But I'm going to go with old Doc Holliday.
Tombstone.
And Tombstone.
That probably, honestly, wins you the draft.
Everybody loves that movie. He is the best part of that movie. Tombstone.
He is the best part of that movie. He also dies from mono. Oh, wait, no. Tuberculosis.
Read a history
joke
book,
we were
Ben.
talking about.
Oh, yeah, because Cody Williams, by the way, out for the rest of the year.
With mono.
With mononucleosis.
Which is not, in fact, all that bad of a thing to have.
No, it's not. It is certainly not tuberculosis. No.
All right, then I'll go with Top Gun. In a little bit of a strategy move, I'll go with Top Gun.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Because you know I'm going to take my favorite.
I know that's why I took Top Gun 1, because I figured you were going to go this direction too.
We're going to go with The Doors, Ben. What I feel like is honestly his best acting performance, because he looks nothing like Jim Morrison. There is nothing that those two like even remotely have in common. Val's like 6'3", Jim Morrison was like 5'6".
Yeah.
Val's blonde, Jim was not, all the things. And as he was a great Jim Morrison, he was. I don't think that oftentimes biopics or whatever.
Biopics, yeah.
Like, I don't often think that the modern ones anyway, the portrayals are very good. I thought Chalamet was pretty good as Bob Dylan, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Elton John one was ridiculously bad. But you get my point. I'm going with The Doors.
I have honestly never seen it, and I need to see it.
It's good. The book it's based on is better, but it's good.
All right, and I'm going with the obvious pick, my favorite Val Kilmer movie, Heat, where he's awesome. He's got the ski mask on. He's the blonde guy. Goes toe-to-toe with De Niro.
That'll get you votes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love Heat as much as the next guy, but I'm not necessarily a shoot-'em-up guy either.
Yeah.
Isn't it true that Bob De Niro and Al Pacino are only in one scene together because at the time they hated each other so much that was like
I don't know that they didn't like each other.
Written in.
But yeah, the diner scene.
Ben, I'm going to go with a film from my youth, Real Genius.
Okay.
Which is a funny movie. I have no idea if it stands up, though. I haven't seen it in quite some time. But he's funny in it.
I'm not a genius, so it took me a while to spell that. Yeah, good pick. It's kind of his breakout, right?
Yeah.
It was his first big role. Not his first role, but the first time we were like, oh, this kid's got some
chops.
Some riz, as the kids like to say. I will go with a movie I really like. You should see it. Yeah, you probably have seen it. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
It is a good movie.
Very funny. He and Robert Downey Jr. going toe-to-toe.
All right, Ben. I'm going with another movie of my youth.
If you like Nice Guys, you saw Nice Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. Same writer. Same type of movie.
Ben, I'm going to go with the Ron Howard classic, Willow. Mad Mardigan. Again, he was the best part of that movie.
I think people would talk about Willow being the best part of it. The little person. But
yeah, Warwick Davis.
But
I thought Mad Mardigan was the best part of that movie.
But yeah, people like Val. A lot of kids don't realize Val Kilmer's in that movie because they just watched it because Warwick Davis is in it. All right, I'm going to go with Batman Forever.
That was a terrible movie, but he wasn't a bad Batman. Does that make any sense?
It's a fun movie. It is not, the greatest portrayal of any comic book of all time, but it's fun. It is really easy watching. In fact, and he's better than George Clooney was. It's a very easy watch.
All right. I'm gonna play on the heartstrings a little bit, Ben, and I'm gonna go with Top Gun Maverick because I think it's awesome that they put him in that movie.
Agreed. And
I thought that was so cool.
They totally acknowledged that this is a dying person.
Right. And he didn't have any lines. And it was that was his role in the movie. I thought it was really cool that they did it. And I liked that movie. I thought it was good.
I'm with you. And we rounded out the exact 10 that I had because I'm going to take True Romance, number 10.
You're not going to take the what was the movie where he played the 70s adult film star? You're not going with that one?
The Doors.
All right, do we want to review?
Jake, you had the number one pick. You went Tombstone, The Doors, Real Genius, Willow, and Top Gun Maverick. Ben, you went Top Gun number 1, Heat, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Batman Forever, and True Romance.
I don't know. This is a toss-up. I'm curious how far people read down these lists. I think sometimes they don't read past the first 2 names. But if they do, I think I might win.
I think Batman is either going to win it for you or lose it for you.
I think The Doors is not a movie a lot of people have seen.
Probably not. Nobody likes Oliver Stone. But that is a good movie.
But Willow will get you picks. And Top Gun Maverick's great. I actually think Top Gun Maverick's better than Top Gun, the first one.
All right, there you go. That's What You Got Wednesday. We'll get that up on the Jake and Ben Twitter account, and we'll let you have at it and vote. I'll be curious to see
how we do,
where we land.
Fun draft.
All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the show. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, one thing that was thrown out there, this article starts talking about how you fix the draft odds at the All-Star break. Then you don't get this late season tanking situation. Well, the problem is you get the early season tanking situation, right?
Yeah,
so
what's the difference?
The difference is I guess the basketball in theory would be better right now. But if a team is bad enough to where they are tanking, like what makes them want to play super hard? Let's say that the Jazz, for example, would they have actually had a better record? Would their record have would they have 25 wins right now? 30? Doubt it. And so saying that the mid-season, like, hey, you can only tank for half of the year because then that's going to fix the late season tank. I don't know if that fixes it necessarily. I think that the NBA is in a spot where they have bigger problems than just a tank. It's the whole attitude of, I'm okay missing a bunch of games even though I'm the superstar of this team.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today. For your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Peach Doors and Windows.
Couple of pieces of news that, yes, we touched on lightly. Cody Williams' rookie season is done. He's got mononucleosis.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Otherwise, the Jazz also announced that Larry Markkanen's knee injury will keep him out at least another week. Same with John Collins, essentially. So we'll see if we see either of those players again. Lowry will be reevaluated in 7 to 10 days. 10 days would put him out at the very last day of the season. John Collins is 1 week from today. So,
would you ask him if you were Cody Williams to put something else on the report?
Kissing Cody?
See, for that reason.
Yeah, because you can get mono from sharing a glass with somebody.
A zillion different ways. You can get it from a public water fountain.
You ever had mono?
No.
Don't say it like you'd be embarrassed if you did. You can't say you'd ask him to put something else on when I ask you.
All I said was no.
That I asked. That's not how you said it. You said me?
I said
why?
No.
I never.
I said no.
Really harsh no. Jeez. A lot of people have it, Jake. If you had it, it's okay.
We were talking about the infamous sports mono cases, though, because Jimmer got it his junior year.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold lost a rookie season to it, right?
Isaac Wilson had it during spring ball last year, right?
It's it's a thing. So Cody, get well. Bed rest, right? Have you had it?
I have not.
Christian?
Nope.
Dang. We should all start kissing.
From people,
get it and pass it around.
It knocks you out, right? I mean, you just have no energy for like weeks at a time.
Yeah, it just saps you. So
that stinks. But yeah, I might have had him say, "Hey, why don't you throw a hammy on there or something like that?"
Yeah, whatever it is.
Do you really need to put mono on there? I mean, we all know what the reason is, but does Ben have to know? You have to put that on that text and send it out to everybody. So now I get this.
And then Keanu Dawes back at Utah. Apparently, he has withdrawn his name from the transfer portal per On3 Sports. So that's a big get. That was probably the top name for Utah to bring back from last season. Started his career at Rice, played at Utah this year, and was quite good for a sophomore, and has some opportunity to be a big-time player going forward. So good get for Alex Jensen. Told you I'd go after Ezra Asar pretty hard too, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know how consequential it is to bring players back from a bad team. But yeah, some continuity would probably be nice.
I don't care about the continuity other than not every player you get in the transfer portal is going to be better than the guys you have. You have one guy who's at least worth bringing back.
Probably.
So bring back the one guy who's worth bringing back, and Keanu Dawes, I think, was the top of that list for Utah.
But Utah State didn't bring back anybody a couple of years ago when they made the tournament. Yeah. So I don't think...
You don't have to, no, certainly.
I don't think player retention is all that big part of the strategy, Utah aside. Now, BYU has made some, noise that player retention is going to be a big part of what they do. But I'm thinking, what was the figure the other day that 3,000 basketball players or something like that have already hit the transfer portal? Yeah. I think teams are going to be changing over, I don't know, Ben, 75, 85% of their roster every single year, regardless of a coaching change?
At least half.
I bet it's more.
Might be. I bet you at least half enters the transfer portal. Maybe more than half enters the transfer portal. Now, some of them just go back to school, the same school.
Well, I think the coach is going to chase off more than half. Then, again, this is like the mistake that people make when we're talking about transferring and why this whole thing people just ignore and think that, it's the player's freedom to go where they want to play and where they want to be.
Yeah.
No, it's the freedom for the coach to cut all these guys. So the ones that want to leave and go somewhere else, I'm thinking that's like 2 or 3 a year. I'm thinking like 6 are going to be from cuts.
Yes, you look at Keanu Dawes. Keanu Dawes is not the only player at Utah who wants to come back to Utah. There are guys who say, I don't want to move.
Right.
My family's been out here. They've come and visited me. I have a girlfriend. I got mono.
By the way, Bronco Mendenhall is honestly the first coach I've heard, speaking of Bronco, being honest in this case, who took the job and came in and said, yeah, we're going to sit down with everybody and we're going to watch the film and stuff, and some people are going to fit and some people aren't.
Yeah.
Because most, if not all coaches, certainly all that I've heard who take a new job would be like, we're going to ask all these guys and we're going to try and retain as many as we can, and that's just frankly not true.
Right.
So when I say I think that percentage of the roster is going to turn over, that's not, wow, they played at Utah and now they're going to Kentucky. No, that's they're now going to play at Idaho State. Or Salt Lake Community College.
Go Bruins.
Your alma mater.
Yep.
All right. Stay tuned. Hans and Scotty coming up next. Oh, yeah. They're out at RGS today. Go check out those guys.
Get their tech show up?
Get those gutters taken care of.
Oh, good.
All right. Stay tuned. Hans and Scotty here next. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Jake and Ben Show, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.